Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, Just Some Bodhi's Opinion. My name is Bodhi and today we're gonna talk about race, baby. We're gonna talk about you and me. I'm so sorry for that very cringy start. So last week, my Aviendha casting video had quite blown up and there were a lot of good responses and a lot of also very passionate responses. I think it's been my most disliked video so far. Actually, it's been my most liked video so far as well. So a lot of people had a lot of feelings, and it's been my busiest comment section ever. And so after a week of like reflection and deep human introspection, people calling me racist, I have decided to no, I'm not apologizing. I'm actually gonna rock the fucking boat even more right now. But before any of that, if you are watching right now and you think you like what you're hearing, why don't you like and subscribe? Comment down below, let me know what you're thinking. If you dislike this, please dislike the video. Comment down below, let me know what you're thinking. But most importantly, the number one rule that we should always have is, as per the 12th Doctor,
And snap the thumb and forefinger off of every single person I see.
okay, sorry, not that. As per the 12th Doctor,
Be kind.
be kind. Be respectful in the comment section. You can vehemently disagree with everything I'm saying, with everything that's been happening. But please be kind, please be respectful. Please do not spam all the other comments with your hateful comments. And to my likers, if you scroll through the comments and see things that you do like, please do, press a like or comment on those comments that you like. That ensures that the comments stay up due to relevance. Now, to everyone else, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, how can we be respectful when you're calling us fucking racists? Number one, are you sure I'm calling you the fucking racist? Are you sure that I'm talking about you in particular? Because if you think that I'm calling you out as the racist, maybe you should reflect on that. In the last video, I had put very specific examples of what I thought were racist comments. And maybe I have to repeat myself because people are human, people misunderstand. So let me repeat myself. You are not racist if you disagree with the casting. There are perfectly legitimate reasons to disagree with a casting. I said it in the last video myself, where I said, I hope they continue to be consistent with the continuity of what an Aiel is. That's not racist to say. Now, if you comment ginger side towards a casting of a woman with red hair, that might be construed as racist. Now, if you complain about her non-green eyes, when you didn't complain about Ciara's non-blue eyes, maybe you have a racist reason for calling that out. Do some self-reflection. And yes, I will continue to assert that there is no in-text evidence that the Aiel or Aviendha must be quote-unquote white. And whiteness is a whole other conversation that we're gonna have. So hang on to your panties and we're gonna go into a ride about race. So most people like to quote this quote to quote the whiteness of the Aiel. She stood in one smooth motion, surprisingly pale where the sun had not touched her. Slender and hard-muscled, yet with roundness and softness that haunted his dreams. From the Fires of Heaven, chapter 52. First of all, if your sole argument to Aviendha and the Aiel's whiteness is based on the fact that her skin is pale where the sun doesn't shine, I would invite you to speak to more women or men about the places where the sun don't shine. You would be surprised about the difference in skin tone. And I have to say this again gently, but there are white people who would tan darker than Ayoola is right now. So if they had cast a white woman as Aviendha and they had tanned her darker than Ayoola is right now, would that be okay with you? Because you're not racist, right? Now, if you say that Jordan said point blank that the Aiel are based on Irish people, because that's the fucking joke, Bodhi. They're Irish in the desert. That's actually quite a valid argument. You're quoting the 1996 interview with Jordan, and Jordan wanted to turn the tropes on their head, right? He wanted the opposite of what a hardened desert warrior would be. You know, like having an entire society of women warriors. Also, Ayoola is an Irish woman, so. But anyway, we're getting to the crux of this whole thing. And I wanted to bring us to a little side trip about race and how I perceive race and why I might have a different view from, 90% of my audience. And I think it's good also because this would mark the point of departure that I have with the typical Western view. Thanks, by the way, to all the people who participated in the thought experiment of last video where I had asked you to judge my ethnicity based on my face. A full half of you thought that I was Swedish, which is very far from where I'm from, but thanks. Some said I had an American accent. I don't hear it. And I also got a very sweet message from someone who apologized for judging me for where I came from based on where he thought I came from. And I would have to say, please don't apologize. It is human to classify. That is how we compartmentalize the world. Anyway, back to the race talk. So, it's not a secret. I am part of Southeast Asia. Not South Asia, not East Asia, but Southeast Asia. And we do have a myriad of different ethnicities. One of the most dominant ethnicities would be the Chinese. The Chinese could be found in every part of Southeast Asia, where they have either created subsets of society or have mixed with some part of the general population. And I will set my examples specifically on the Chinese right now because I think that would be easier for most of you to visualize because you have probably have met a Chinese person sometime in your life or an East Asian person. And to those who have not been exposed to a lot of Chinese people, let me paint you some sort of picture. But you might have in your head an image of a Chinese person. But when we talk about the skin tone of the Chinese, there is a wide variety of skin tones. And since we're gonna be talking a lot about skin tones and races, let me introduce to you the Fitzpatrick scale, which is a scale used by dermatologists regarding the sensitivity to light of different skin types. So there's type 1 being the lightest to type 6, which is the darkest. And I would say, out of experience, and I'll put photos if I can see them, the Chinese would range from type 1 to type 4. And for the Chinese also, there would be folks who have monolids, the epicanthic fold, and people who don't have the monolid. So you might have an internal image of what an East Asian Chinese person looks like. But what I'm telling you is that there is a wide range of variety within that set of things that you're thinking about. In Southeast Asia, what would separate the Chinese from the rest of the ethnicities would be a shared language, a shared culture of Chinese-ness. Because in Southeast Asia, where ethnicity might be spread out across different countries, nationality takes precedence over ethnicity, which most of you would be familiar with. What I'm trying to get at with this context is the fact that I grew up in a culture which did not judge the race or ethnicity only by skin tone. Because for me, I needed to judge that race or ethnicity based on a few other things, like language or even accent. Because I would encounter Chinese who would be lighter than me or Chinese who would be darker than me, and they would all be speaking fucking Mandarin, and I would barely know what they're saying. And that's not to say that Asians aren't racist. People can be hella racist, mind you. And I'm not saying we're race blind, right? Like, an African man can come in and we'd be like, oh, is that another Chinese? No, you idiots, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that skin tone in general has a wide variety within the subset of what we are calling out as race. Which is what I'm seeing as the main difference whenever I get into Western discourse about race. And again, please educate me because again, I am not within the Western construct of, your race conversations. So I apologize to everyone I am probably insulting right now. But from all of the racial discourse that I have been reading into, please correct me if I'm wrong again, the definition of white seems to be like a particular subset, right? And anything in addition to white, like if you add in any other color on top of that, it's suddenly not white. Versus a black person who can be progressively lighter, and maybe we can look at the scale from a type 6 going down to type 2, and yet because of heritage they would still be labeled black. Meanwhile, for white people, it's like anything in addition to that color is like, you're not white anymore. Which again to me is a bit confusing because, again, my experience with the Chinese is type 1 to 4. For Filipinos, there's type 1 to 5. So there's a broad range of colors for like one ethnicity. And again, that's my whole confusion about the whole white discourse. So I'm probably getting so much hate for this. Please forgive the non-Westerner about not understanding your racial discourse. And so back to the Wheel of Time and the whole Aviendha thing, right? Because when the Aviendha casting came out, I, as a non-Westerner, had just looked at it and said, oh, a woman with red hair. Or actually, in my local terminology, I had said, oh, an angmo with red hair. Angmo can mean white person, and it could also mean Western in general. In my head, it was Western. So I didn't understand the entire explosion of people shouting at each other until I double checked and saw, oh, people are shouting because she's not white. Which blew my mind, again, because my definition was a bit wider, in terms of skin tone, but okay. And that's why when people comment back to me and say,
But Rand and Aviendha don't look like they're the same race.
I mean, to me they do. Because, to me, you're all Westerners. So maybe I'm the racist. And again, I'm not saying I'm race blind, right? I'm just saying that skin tone wise, I thought, oh, again, a white person can tan darker than Ayoola is right now. And having said all that, it's not as if Ayoola has the skin tone of Lupita Nyong'o, who is like a type 5 or 6. Because we'd have to make, a bit more mental gymnastics to encapsulate Rand and Lupita Nyong'o in the same racial category as Aiel. I mean, it could work, mind you. I could make it work. But if your problem with Ayoola is your fixation of whether she's pale underneath where the sun don't shine, please self-reflect. Please self-reflect. But anyway, mentioning Lupita Nyong'o really got me thinking. Because I really got to think, I could fucking make those mental gymnastics work. And it will tickle me the fuck out watching racist brains explode. So anyway, after that long, convoluted foreplay, just trying to get the context out there, we finally get to the meat of this fucking video, which is my presentation of what I imagine the Aiel to be for the fucking TV show. Before I really get into it, we are going to get into Book 4 Shadow Rising spoilers. So if you have not read through Shadow Rising, please fuck off. Unless you're really not into spoilers. Because The Shadow Rising was the best book in the Wheel of Time series ever. And it has some of the best sequences, which I might talk about coming into this next section. So please fuck off.
Shields up, red alert!
So, if you're all still here, welcome to what I believe the Aiel will be portrayed as for the fucking TV show. And again, please remember guys, this is me just fucking with you. Because this is not in any way official. It is just my fucking headcanon and me making the mental gymnastics work regarding race. Now, what do we know about the Aiel? We know that the Aiel were dedicated servants for the servants of all, or the Aes Sedai of the Age of Legends. We know that they as a people have flame-colored hair, mostly. And the Aiel in modern times would be sun-darkened because of, their time in the waste. And the foundation of all the things I'm gonna say right now is the fact that we're coming from the fucking Age of Legends, where there are people like Agenor who were like making genetic experiments of Trollocs and Fades and Dragcar and whatever. So it is not beyond the realm of reason, to me, guys, that the Aiel as a people just needed to have the recessive gene of red hair. And in the first age, right this moment, at this point in time, red hair is not a unique thing for the Irish or to Caucasians in general. We see red hair in different peoples all around the world. Maybe not as much as the Irish, but it's present. So it is within the realm of possibility that in the Age of Legends, all of these fucking people were banded together and culled and genetically made as one race. So, finally, let me get you through my tour of the Aiel clans. Let's start with the Chareen. The most prominent person from the Chareen is Torilea, who is described as having green eyes and white hair. Her skin is leathery and drawn tight over her skull. She is all sinew and bone and is a head taller than Egwene. Very vague, that could be anyone. The clan chief of the Chareen is Aaron, and Aaron is described as having bright hair. His eyes are green and as strong as any younger man's. He has big hands, wide and long and hard, strong arms, and a pugnacious jaw. Again, very vague. So my idea of Aaron is Hrithik Roshan, who is a fine hunk of man in Bollywood. And Hrithik Roshan, I think, would be between type 3 and 4, I guess. We're gonna use the Fitzpatrick scale through all of these things. So let's say that the Chareen are within type 3 and 4 of the Fitzpatrick scale. Next up, the Goshien Aiel. The clan chief of the Goshien Aiel is Bale, who is described as the tallest man Rand has ever seen. He has a hard, sun-dark face. Gray streaks his dark reddish hair, and he has blue or gray eyes. Again, I keep repeating this. There is so little conversation about skin tone for the Aiel. Anyway, my vision of Bale is Idris Elba. So we could label the Goshien Aiel around type 5, type 6 in the Fitzpatrick scale. Next up, the Shaarad, who is in a 400-year-old blood feud with the Goshien Aiel. The clan chief of the Shaarad is Jeran, who is described as slender as a blade, light brown hair streaked with gray and blue eyes. I'm thinking Gary Oldman, so the Shaarad would be around type 3 to type 4. I would just love to see Gary Oldman and Idris Elba mend their differences because of Rand's tavern nature. Next up, the Nakai Aiel, who are led by Bruin. He is big and strong enough to be a blacksmith, but has a placid nature. He has gray eyes. So for some reason, just seeing blacksmith, and I'm thinking Jeffrey Dean Morgan, Negan from The Walking Dead. So I guess the Nakai would be type 2 to type 3 in terms of skin tone. Next up, the Tomanelle Aiel, who are led by Han, who is described as white-haired, dark-faced, and short for an Aielman. His face looks like dark, wrinkled leather. His personality is described as prickly and sour. When he speaks, his voice is irascible. Rand thinks to himself that Han sounds as if he is seldom happy. So, not on the short part, but for everything else, for some reason, Samuel motherfucking Jackson came to mind. So I'm imagining Han as Samuel Jackson.
English, motherfucker. I'm a mushroom cloud laying motherfucker.
And I fucking love it. So I guess the Tomanelle are around, type 5, type 4, type 5. Next up, one of the most famous clans, which is the Shaido, who are the most privileged motherfuckers out there, and who are very, very concerned about the thought of racial purity of the Aiel. And for the most famous Shaido, Savannah, who is described as golden hair, green eyes. She tends to wear as much jewelry as she can, which covers her most considerable bosom. So for Savannah, I'm thinking of Lena Headey herself, Cersei herself. I already love to hate her, and she's a fantastic actress. So the Shaido would be around type 1 to type 2, I guess. Finally, we get to the Taardad Aiel, who are well known because that has Rourke, our Aiel daddy, Amos, and Aviendha is from here. So of course, let's go Irish for this one. For Rourke, our Aiel daddy, who is described as a tall older man. His hair is dark red with more than a touch of gray. He has a good smile and a strong, square, handsome face. I propose Liam Neeson for our Aiel daddy. And so the Taardad would be around type 2 to type 3 in terms of the scale. You'll notice that I haven't mentioned the Kodara Aiel, the Darren, the Shiande, and the Mayagoma because they were all late to the party and they didn't join Rand until the very end. So you can just imagine for yourselves what you think they could have been. But we've got one last clan, and that's the Reyn Aiel, and their clan chief is Derek. He is husky, blue-eyed, and almost as tall as Rand, with a prominent nose and pale streaks in his golden hair. For Derek, I propose Jimin from BTS.
When I look in the mirror, I'm too hard to do.
So there, that would be my thoughts on how we can depict the motherfucking Aiel for the TV show. And again, for everyone else out there, this is just me fucking with you. And myself, I guess. Because I don't think they're gonna do this. But what more could you have? I've done all the mental gymnastics for you. I have rationalized it with Age of Legend genetics. I have used book text to talk about everything else. And it's just fun to see all of these modern world races, all of them having red hair, all of them sun darkened because of the sun. Because that's what wetlanders see from Aiel. They see a veiled enemy bearing down on them with just some spears. That's what they see Aiel as. And if you continue to be super duper concerned about how pale someone is underneath skin that doesn't meet the sun, well, keep self-reflecting there. And if you're still here and you're super angry by what you've just seen, don't worry. I've saved you the time by making the speech for you.
You racist liberal motherfuckers. Why the fuck are you ruining my fucking Wheel of Time? Why are you ruining all of the shows that I love? Why are you making people black? What would you think if you made 2 on white? Are you gonna call us racist now?
I'm sorry, that just earned me more haters. But by the way, I also want to talk about 2 on. Because for some fucking reason, right, people keep bringing up the fact that,
Hey, what if 2 on becomes white? Are you gonna call them racist then?
yes, I'm gonna call them racist then, if they make 2 on white. 2 on, who Robert Jordan very specifically said had black skin, who had curly hair when she was regrowing her hair. I feel like 2 on, of all the people in the Wheel of Time, has like the most description of her skin color. And I do think Robert Jordan was trying to make a point of making the fucking empress of the fucking slave nation, who all spoke like Texan drawlers, to be black. So yeah, I don't know why you make false equivalencies like this. Anyway, if you've gotten to the end of this video, thank you for staying on and not running away. What did you think about whatever the fuck I've been talking about? Like and subscribe, comment down below. Let me know what you thought. If you really want to get the conversation going, join me in my new Discord. And if you really like me, maybe you can be a patron on my new Patreon. And if you're still here and you're really angry, and to everyone else out there anyway, just remember, it's just somebody's opinion. So don't be angry. Bye for now.